It's said that among the top 3 most stressful events anyone can go through, there's death of a loved one, there's moving, and then there's changing careers. Yeah, I know a lot about that, and maybe you do too. And I guarantee our guest today does. And that's what we're going to talk about. Making a pivot, making a change in your career, in your profession, in the way that you earn a living, in the way that many of us identify with the world. Finding a job, a career, it's tough at any age. It's tough, period. It's even harder now for a lot of us the older we get. There's so many things to contend with. There's so much competition. How we were taught to find a job, what an employer wanted, how to present ourselves is so dramatically different in this age than it was when we graduated college, or hell, even 20 years ago when we were in our 30s and just starting out and making a name for ourselves. Especially now that we're dealing with ageism, AI, all of these other things, the younger generations. Our guest today is an expert in this personally and professionally. Adam Posner is one of the top recruiters in America. Now, before you think, oh, well, I'm not looking for a job, I don't even know that. I invited Adam on for a number of reasons. He is one of the legitimate, most influential voices on LinkedIn. He's the guy that other recruiters, other companies go to because he has his finger on the pulse of what's going on in hiring today. And here's the thing, you're going to love Adam. He's a New Yorker. He is no bullshit. He just calls it like it is. But the most important thing, and one reason I just think this guy is so great, is he approaches it as humans. A lot of people know of Adam, especially if you're on LinkedIn, you know of his fantastic podcast, the POZcast, which he started several years ago after making a pivot. One thing that sets Adam apart that I know you're going to love, and he's going to talk a little bit about this, is like a lot of us, he too's been fired. He's made a pivot, not by choice. And he's going to talk about that. He wasn't just fired. He was fired by Gary Vaynerchuk. In this video, we're going to talk about careers. We're going to talk about what works, what doesn't. We're going to talk about LinkedIn and how to really use it. We're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about ageism. And we're also going to talk about family relationships and how everything blends together. We're also going to talk about pivots and making a change and how you can make a change right now at this stage of life. Adam's going to tell you his 2 things that really make somebody stand out and where people fall short. And we're going to talk about one of the big myths of people our age of how we think it should work and how it really doesn't. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor, Jubilee TV. If you have older parents, whether they are across town or across the country, Jubilee TV is a great way to stay in touch with them, to get status checks, to help them work that remote, and to show you care. Through your phone, through their TV, it's a fantastic way to stay in touch and make your life and theirs a lot easier. Now, let's get to our conversation with Adam Posner. I'm Bradley Richardson, and this is Advanced Adulting. Adam Posner, welcome to Advanced Adulting.
Brad, thank you for inviting me on. I'm thrilled to be here. Congrats on the new show, man.
Thank you. You know, I love that sweet studio setup you've got there. I mean, I got the natural things going on.
You got it going on, man. I would trade this for that in a heartbeat. This is an evolution, though. I didn't always have a fancy mic, and it's an evolution. I started with a $60 Blue Yeti mic, whatever it was, and then you evolve. And I always say, always be upgrading in life, right? Always be upgrading every aspect of your life.
Absolutely.
Hold yourself to a higher standard.
Oh, well, look, I mean, I say this about advanced adulting and anything. I don't care if you're, 35, 55, whatever. I mean, you're always grown up, but you're never finished growing. And that is in professionally, personally, whatever. If you stop evolving and learning, that's time to check out at that point. So
yeah, never settle for mediocrity. Never settle. Just never settle. And I think a lot of people just get complacent in their careers and their life, their love and their relationships. And what's the point of living if you're just going to settle, right?
Yeah. Well, I hear that a lot from people, and you're right, in all those different areas, whether it's your career or love or anything, it's the settle. And it's so funny. I mean, I think that, and I've fallen victim to this. A lot of people, we become a society that's so outcome focused. rather than the journey. And it's corny and cliche. It is the journey. But we look at, hey, once I reach the destination, once I get this job, once I get married, once I have kids, it's all going to be done, and you're set. Nothing could be further from the truth.
No, definitely not. I mean, I could speak to that firsthand. I mean, you talk about like just marriage in general. How many conversations I have with friends and newly married friends of how much work it takes. I mean, you know this,
Yeah.
and people rush into marriage, and I mean, we could have a whole hour-long conversation on the subject of marriage. But
All right.
it's your show, man. Wherever you want to take it.
Well, it's funny. We're on that, and that's the beautiful part of this, and why I wanted to have conversations, not interviews. Is it's funny. I'm in my 50s. I've been married. I've been divorced for a long time. I'm in a long-term relationship now. But boy, my whole and I've got 3 kids in their 20s. 2 of them are in New York, where you're at, and it's the idea of, would I get married again? Well, yeah, because I wanted kids and all of that. But I got married in my 20s. And you don't know what you don't know. You're an idiot. You haven't been fully formed. You have no idea what you want from life. You don't know what to look for in a partner other than, oh, they're hot. I mean, it could be anything. And I just, we talked about this the other day, Shannon and I did, of, man, would you get married again? No, I don't want to. I don't have to be married again. But we don't, oftentimes we're not mature enough to think of the why are you doing it?
Right. And what does even marriage mean? I mean, that's a philosophical, commitment, right? Like, can you be committed to someone without having I have dear friends that have kids that are not married. Maybe they're engaged, right? But they don't plan on getting married. And, one of them was coming off of a divorce too and didn't want to get remarried. But that engagement at least shows the commitment that's there. Yeah. And the institution of marriage isn't something that everyone holds that standard differently. What does that mean to people? Marriage.
Well, you nailed it. Everybody holds it differently. And look, I mean, we keep it very real and direct here. Sure. We both know, everybody watching this knows somebody that, oh, they're in a marriage, they're married, they love Jesus and are married and all this. And meanwhile, they're screwing their admin, they're doing this, they're unhappy. I mean, just because you've got that ring on your finger, and this is going to piss a lot of people off, but just because you have the ring on your finger doesn't mean you're committed. No. You can be equally as committed in a non-married relationship.
It comes down to trust and respect at the end of the day. Next month I'm celebrating 15 years with my wife, 17 years together, and it's built on loyalty and trust. I mean, I do a lot of travel, and she trusts me implicitly. There's never even a question, like, because we built that up, and you do it by proof, right? And like, that's what it takes. It takes trust and it takes work. And I'll tell everyone too, people look at our relationship like, oh, Adam and Alona have a great marriage, have a great relationship. You fucking kidding me? The amount of ups and downs and work it takes. You only see the top of the iceberg. You only see the optics. You only see the Instagrams and the TikToks. It takes work every single day. And it's also a business too. The problem I see is when couples form into, I call it they morph into roommates or business partners, like in the non-business partner, business partner kind of way. And, or they're just staying together for the kids. It blows my mind that people don't realize a good relationship, parts of it are effortless, and then parts of it take work to make it feel effortless.
Absolutely. And it's not always the happy, good time show. It's not always, sex and romance, and it's great. Because you talk about this roommate thing. And look, my kids are grown. I know you still have younger kids. Their life happens. I mean, it's never 50-50. And it's never, you have to really balance everything, or not even balance. It's not the right word for it. You have to acknowledge that there are imbalances, great imbalances in it, but there needs to swing back to some equilibrium at some point.
And think about the other perspective too, which not in my particular case, but because we're growing together. But let's say you get married early. I mean, maybe this is a situation in your case, who you are at 22 or 23 getting married young versus 30, 35 as you get older. People grow and you're not fully formed. You don't know who you are. You don't know what you're into. Yeah. And getting married early is, that's a whole other topic.
It is, but
live your life a little bit first. I got married at 30. Yeah. 31. I was like,
go live your life.
My wife and I both had lives before each other. We've had relationships. We've been through it. We've been experienced. And I think getting a lot of that out of the way, you lust for less when you have experiences.
Well, and you
to a certain extent.
Yeah, well, we're talking about relationships, but the same thing goes for your career or anything. And one of the things I talk about in advanced adulting and the keys with it, it's so funny for those of you that are watching. I mean, like I've been doing this for a long time. I wrote one of the very first business books for Gen X back when I was in my 20s. Now I'm in my 50s. And it's a totally different world, professionally, personally, everything. And who you are at 27 is such a dramatically different human being than 47 or 57 in what you want, what you expect, what you feel, believe, everything. And we talk about that with marriage and relationships. But the same thing goes, I believe, for your career. And that happens to be, for those of you that are watching, Adam's in my background. I mean, he currently is one of the top recruiters out there. I'm a former headhunter. When we choose partners in a certain way, we choose careers based on limited information as well.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting too. You said that and it kind of triggered something in my head. I mean, I look back at my life and I think of like those years. I think that for me it was 26, 27 years old, and then it was 35 when I pivoted careers, and we'll get to that in a little bit. And then I look back on the last couple of years from 44 and turning 46 next month, of where I am at my life and my career and how I put certain things into perspective, how I handle different stresses, how I handle relationships. And at the end of the day, I kind of synthesize it as prioritization. Who and what is most important to me right now, and where do I focus that time and effort? And it's my family, my 2 kids, my wife, and my closest friends and family. Other people, like you eliminate energy suckers and negativity from your life. And once you learn that, you have more time for the good stuff.
Absolutely. And as someone who's putting a little bit ahead of you on this, I mean, it changes. It's fluid. You still have to have those big rocks and what's important. But, as your kids grow older, they're still important to you, but, they're going to be living their lives. And then you start to change your career, your relationship, what you want, all of those things.
Could we let's talk about this for a second. And you'll probably laugh at this. Do you remember when your first kid was born and the older folks were like, cherish it now because it's going to go fast, and you're like, oh my God, all I think about now is a little baby and diapers and everything. And then next thing you know, it accelerates so quickly. My daughter is 13, and the other day I had this premonition. I'm like, I only got 4 more years of her in the house. And then she's off to college, and then her life, and I'm like, wow, like when did that happen? Like, when did that happen? When did those 13 years just happen? And then I took a step back and I'm saying, thank God I was present, and like she's like daddy's girl, and like I have those moments and I have no regrets. And I'm making sure I have that with my 7-year-old, because I had those lessons learned too about reinforcing how important that quality time was, but that how fast that goes. And the best thing you could do is just prepare your kids when they fly the coop, right? Leave the nest.
100%. I mean, it's sobering, it's shocking, it's scary, it's all of those things. And I had read some statistic that said you spend 92% of the time you'll ever spend with your child up until they're about age 12. And my daughter turns 29 this year. She's married. My boys are in their 20s. And
no grandkids yet?
No, that'll happen soon.
Does that scare you, Brad?
They're working on that. No,
you gonna embrace being a grandpa?
I want to be cool grandpa.
Look, I mean, it's logical. It's what's happening.
There's so much about you think you have forever, and you're just busy putting out fires. And I'm telling you what, and I hope you all stick to the end because you're going to know, because it's one of the questions that I ask guests. But it's this idea of, man, if you knew then, when people are saying that, cherish it, you don't. It's a blink of an eye. And I don't feel that much older, but when you watch them grow and become their own human, man, that is that idea of being present for them, for your spouse, person, whatever, for yourself. And I wish that's the shit they don't teach in college, is it?
No, they don't teach you about being present. They don't. And it's kind of like the silver lining of my career journey, and the fact that the last 8 years I've been working for myself. I've had the ability to be home, and I have the ability to, between my physical office here, which is not in my house, and being home, I am home a lot. I spend a lot of time with my kids, and I love every minute of it. Well, I shouldn't say every minute. There's times that absolutely suck. Let's be real, folks. I mean, sometimes I want to, just jump out a window, right? Like, and leave. We were joking before. I'm heading out to San Diego next week. I'm like, thank God I have these little breaks of sanity, because I think it's important, even in relationships and marriages and with kids and everything, that the individual partners have their moments to be themselves and moments of free time. And whether it's planned or not, for example, wife's going on a girls' trip in April to Jamaica. Like, please. And I'm like encouraging it.
Right.
Go clear your head. Go be with your buddies. Go be with the girls. Like, go, because you come back reinvigorated. You need it. You need to cleanse the palate.
well, it's cleansing the palate, but it's also, you're not just one label. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a part that
Right.
look, when someone gets divorced, when someone
Mm-hmm.
loses a job where they've really, poured everything into it, whatever the case is, we wrap so much of ourselves up into our identity in the labels, and the
Right.
labels that we either choose or the labels that people put on us. And so that is, you're a dad. Yeah, that is one component of your life. You're also a husband. You're also a business owner. You're
Yeah.
also a friend. A child, a brother. All these,
Yeah.
and all of those, make up the sum makes up the part. The parts make up the sum of it all. And we forget that because it's just, oh well, I'm just a mom. I'm just a dad. No,
Mm-hmm.
you got to go. That's when people find out, when a big life event hits, they question who they are, or they fake it and bury it, and that's when the rough stuff happens.
Oh.
I
Yeah,
want to talk
man.
for yeah. Go ahead. Uh, Now I want to talk for a second about careers, okay? Because we have, everybody's got a career at some point, however you define it. But both Adam and I have spent a lot of time working with people and helping them in their careers, and you in particular, and even folks who do that, you're navigating your own career, and it changes and ebbs and flows.
Same time.
You've been working for yourself, like a lot of people, but I want to talk for a second about kind of how you got into that evolution, but in particular, you've got some history with Gary Vaynerchuk, which is interesting. If y'all don't know who he is, go follow him. He's one of the big, I hate the word influencers, but that.
Call them whatever you want.
But
Yeah.
the thing that I think is, most impressive is not your time with him, but kind of how that whole thing evolved and what you learned from that.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I'll give everyone the short version there. So before I pivoted into recruiting, I spent 15 years working in marketing, media, advertising here in New York, different ad agencies, Brandside, American Express, SiriusXM, and I landed what I thought was my dream job in 2014 at VaynerMedia, working for Gary V. High level, the grass was not greener on the other side. It was not my forever job, and ultimately, I ended up getting let go. I got fired, and it took me a while to say I got fired, but I did. I got let go. There's a difference between getting let go and being fired.
Right.
Being let go could be downsized, whatever. I got fired because of issues, performance, and it just wasn't right. There wasn't the right chemistry fit on that side. I'm also not the person I am now at 46 versus 34, 35. Very
Right.
different person I am now. How I handle interpersonal relationships. So I got let go, and it was detrimental to me at that time. We just bought a house, moved from the city out to the burbs. Big giant house over my head with a money sign, big like comical, Bugs Bunny dollar sign over my
Right.
head here. And I didn't know what to do. I couldn't go back and interview for the same jobs in account management and strategy. And let's put our recruiter's hat on here. First question you probably ask me, Adam, why were you only in Vayner for 7 months? Right? As a recruiter, like how, the optics on that weren't laying up. But more importantly,
Right.
Brad, I wasn't happy. And it was a real true moment of self-awareness where I had to look deep inside and look in the mirror and say, what am I good at? What do I suck at? And on the way out, my last day at Vayner, Gary said the most important words of advice to me. He said, stop focusing on the things you suck at and double down on your strengths. And we're not talking about subtle things that you could fix. We're talking about major things career-wise. Like, you know what? I suck at math. Why am I an accountant? Right? You know what I mean? I'm just giving you an
Right.
example there.
Yeah.
But the words of doubling down on your strengths are what resonated. And I do this well. I build relationships, and I know the ad and marketing industry, and where could I leverage that? And during that last conversation with Gary at the time, I mentioned recruiting, and his eyes lit up, and he said, "You'd be a fantastic recruiter." And I thought he was just blowing smoke up my ass to get me out the door and everything, but we kept on going with it and digging into it. And I went down the path of due diligence and spoke to many recruiters that I connected with. And long story short, worked at a search agency for a couple of years, learned the art and science of recruiting. And then 7.5 years ago, I launched my own practice, which is NHP Talent Group, focusing on all things marketing, media, and advertising. But to double it back to the Gary V part, while I was only there for 7 months, in the last 10 years, I did something very important. Many people, now I'm putting my recruiter hat back on, my career
Right.
coach hat on. Listen, there are times when you get let go and fired where the only action is scorched earth. It's to napalm the shit out of it, right? Just drop bombs on it.
Right.
Now, there's certain people that do that every single time they let go, and that's not always the right. You have to have that self-awareness. Let's be real here. The majority of people that get let go or fired, they know that they're going to get fired. They know that there's performance issues. Either you're not performing and doing the job you're hired for, or the company's been talking to you. Yes, there are those outlier cases where, oh my God, I can't believe that I got, right? Let's keep it real here. You
Right.
know if you're not doing your job well. If you have any ounce of self-awareness, you know you're not doing your job well. So I knew something was happening there. Again, the details are not important for this conversation. So it wasn't a surprise to me. But I wasn't prepared to deal with the repercussions. I wasn't prepared to deal with that radical moment, the moment of radical self-awareness, Bradley, where I had to say, okay, now what? Now what? But over those last 10 years, instead of burning the scorched earth with Gary Vee and the team there, I doubled down on that relationship.
Right.
And it's paid dividends as far as relationship building and opportunities and just doing things the right way. And I want more people to really think about that point right there. Listen, shit happens. Take ownership of it. But you've put a lot of time into building that relationship in your career. How could you still leverage it? People aren't expecting you to do that.
Right.
It's a very different approach that works if you do it right.
I love that. And look, I've been fired before, and you're
I think
right.
everyone
You
has.
know it.
It's
You
humbling.
know it.
You know it. You know you fucked up or some shit happened, right? Like
Absolutely. And sometimes it's justified, sometimes it's not. But look, and I think that's
politics, right? Politics
of
gets involved.
course, and that's one of the big things that I look. I wrote a book about that. Okay, the last book I wrote many years ago was about this idea of what happens when you screw up and you run a company into the ground, you get fired, whatever, because you're kind of reeling from that. Oftentimes it is that you got the mortgage, you got the new kid, you got whatever, and we beat ourselves up so much about that, and we don't want to talk about it, we don't want to admit it. We think, what am I going to tell a recruiter or anything? Or we become the victim. Even though we knew it was going to happen. Oh, and it's all F them and just scorched earth. And thank you for sharing that Gary Vee story, because I love the fact that now what you all don't know is, you have a great relationship with him. You've done stuff with him, and it doesn't have to, it ends badly in the short term, but it doesn't have to end badly in the long term.
Remember, they hired you for a reason initially, and then it went south. So go back to the reasons of where that was good. And bring that. It takes such a big person to do that. And I'm telling you, like, it's a tough, humble pie to swallow. It's one of the most disgusting, grossest pieces of humble pie you're ever going to eat in your life. But suck it up, Buttercup, because it shows that you are a big, better person. Not say better person than them, but shows you're better than you think you are.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of it right there. Because look, sometimes things are completely unwarranted. And they didn't see, whatever. Sometimes you deserve it, sometimes you don't. But it's that, how do you see yourself and how are you presenting yourself? And that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
I love the advice he gave you. And I'd heard him talk about that before. And I believe that. He set you on a path that did you ever think about being a recruiter?
Not until that moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I thought I'd be doing the other stuff for my whole life for him, for that company.
I was the
Not
same
my whole
way
life for a while.
Hey, we'll get back to this in just a second. But first, do you have older parents? Whether you care for them across town or across the country, you need to know about Jubilee TV. It's a great way to be able to stay in touch with your mom or dad, to help them out with any crazy technology and remote issues, but also is a great way to keep track of them and to communicate with them through your TV, regardless of location. Look, it's another way to show that you care and to give them and you some peace of mind. Check them out at Get Jubilee TV and use code ADULTING at checkout for $25 off. It's definitely worth it, and we're happy to have them as a sponsor of Advanced Adulting and the Advanced Adulting podcast. Now, let's get back to it. People talk to me about going into recruiting, and I fought it for 5 years. They're like, "Oh, you'd be good at this," and I thought, you know what? Because I'd dealt with so many bad recruiters who had tried to come after me. And I thought, this is either, some old man who, I'll date myself, has a great Rolodex or knows a bunch of people.
Yep. Or fax machine.
Yeah. Or it's thank you. Or it's the people who, basically, it's the gateway drug between selling used cars and insurance.
We're the misfits.
All the misfits. That's it. Bad salespeople. And when I kind of took back and thought, no, I really have a skill for this. And found the right people. That's another one too. You got to find the right people, not just shoehorn yourself into something.
No.
Yeah, that's a big one. What let's talk pivots for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you've done, there are a lot of people out there. I mean, this audience is older, 40s, 50s and beyond. And I saw
I'm in
something not
there.
long. Yeah, you're there now.
I'm in between.
I saw something. I think it was the Times of London, but they did a survey that said, not only, or this Corn Ferry that did the Gen X is the new unemployables, but it was also, I think, a Times of London story that said that a lot of recruiters feel that 57 is too old to ever look for work again. And really that, 40 and above is sometimes considered too old to make a switch. What are your thoughts? What are you seeing? How do we can't be put out the pasture.
No.
What do you do?
No, there's a couple of things here, right? First and foremost, ageism is incredibly real.
Yeah.
Ageism is incredibly real. Our competition is younger, faster, more technologically advanced. We are the old men and women right now. It is crazy to think about. I was catching up with an old colleague in one of my last week who I worked with in my late 20s, and we were reminiscing, and like we're the directors and leaders that we were looking up to 20 years ago. We're the old men in the room right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the technology that the kids are using, even with AI and everything out there, like if you're not upskilling and learning, you are going to be a dinosaur. You are going to be irrelevant. You're going to be putting out the pasture. But the pivot, you have to embrace a pivot. I have friends that were downsized in the tech world that have fully embraced a pivot, and they moved into sales. They moved into retail. They've moved into doing other things. Why? First and foremost, because they got to take care of their freaking family.
Sure.
And you do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes a lot of pushing it of, I'm going to keep doing what I've always known. I'm going to keep doing what feels comfortable until you get to a point. And some people get it sooner than later where it's like, shit, that is not going to work. I cannot do the same thing anymore, right? That's a definition of insanity. And you have to embrace the pivot. Pivots are painful. Pivots are hard. When I pivoted from marketing into recruiting, dude, I went from a nice 6-figure salary to making a $40,000 draw as a recruiter, being a rookie, literally rookie, day one, bottom of the totem pole after putting in 15, 17 years worth of work in the industry. Where I was an account director, and now I'm a peon junior rookie recruiter.
You're a phone monkey.
I was sitting next to 23-year-olds.
Yeah.
That was hard, but I knew why I was doing it. So I implore people, embrace a pivot. It's worth it. It's going to hurt. It's going to be painful. It's going to suck. Embrace the suck. But get up every day, eat the frog, do the most difficult task, everything first thing in the morning, get it done, and just suck it up, Buttercup.
So making these pivots. I mean, I have people come to me all the time. I mean, again, I don't recruit anymore, but I still, help people and do some coaching and stuff. But what's funny is I hear that people look at it's my resume. And it's my credentials, and it's what I do. And they feel that if they just go get this, this extra credential or certification or training or such, that's the golden ticket. What's the reality with that? You need to be up on skills, but how much of that is, you're just kind of basically spinning your wheels?
Job searches, landing the right job is a very simple, in my opinion. This is the first time I'm saying this publicly, but I've been thinking about it. The people that get most jobs are two things: most competent, or I should say, a combination of very competent, very skilled. They may not be the most skilled and most competent of those who applied, but they're great interviewers and they know how to network. I'm not talking about the hidden job market. You still have to apply to jobs, but you got to work your network. And that's just not connecting with somebody on LinkedIn and sending a message. It's truly connecting and adding value and going down rabbit holes and asking people for advice and adding value along the way and establishing relationships. That's what the modern job search is. Yeah, you have to apply because technically you have to, but companies are so inundated right now and the pipelines are so massive because so many good folks are out of work. How are you going to rise to the top? And going back to what you said, Bradley, before, as you get older in your career, and if you're staying in the same career, it's a career pyramid. There are less opportunities as you go higher in the pyramid versus entry-level roles in the bottom. So now the competition's more fierce. And if you're not the best of the best and you're shit out of luck, I'm sorry. You have to be upskilling. It's just, I'm sorry, folks. This is just honest, God's to honest truth right here.
I want to talk about upskilling more in a second, about specifically AI and that type of thing. But well, you're right. I mean, there's so little, because you've been working for 20, 30 years. You've been at this level, income wise, title wise, that those opportunities are slim. I've seen so many people now who have, we used to call them side hustles, but now they're working 2 or 3 different side hustles, and that's the future. I mean, that's what I tell people. You get a job, okay, great, but it's really, you're going to need to do, think entrepreneurially and doing something, and that's tough too. But that's the way of the world.
I call it a portfolio career, and I have a portfolio career.
Mm-hmm.
I have the recruiting business, I have the podcasting business, some other things I'm trying to work on the side here, but that's a portfolio business, and hopefully when those 3 come together, it's good enough income to take care of me and the family, right? You have to do that. But it's like the other piece too, and I'm seeing a lot of this is, especially in the tech world, there's folks that have been employed for 10, 12, 15 years. Yes, there's still a few of them, even though we're seeing less and less than that these days. Most careers, 3 or 4 years at a time, and those aren't job jumping anymore. But they get let go because of a massive downsizing that was not performance related, and they have no clue what to do. They didn't spend any time investing. They have 48 connections on LinkedIn. They haven't spent any time developing their network. The time to network is now. Tomorrow's too late. The time is now.
Yep.
Tomorrow is too late. Start today, because you don't know when you're going to need that.
No.
And you have to just put some time in, and whether it is on the weekend, at night, whatever, just use a tool like I think of LinkedIn as a digital Rolodex. That's how you have to think about it too. And then start to layer on the content creation, all the other, advanced level stuff that you and I, but like, if we're talking about it from layman's terms for someone out there, there's no such thing as job security anymore.
No.
Unless you're a teacher in certain ways, and you have tenure and or unions and stuff like that. But then aside from that, most of us are employed at will.
Right. Absolutely.
Contract,
Well, and sometimes you're right. It's not about how good you are. That's not it. It's not, it's not a meritocracy. It's just not. I want to do kind of rapid fire about LinkedIn for a second, because that is something a lot of people think. And I love how and agree with you on how it's where you find people. That's it. I don't know if it's where you find jobs, but it's where you find people. And I love how you said it's the relationships and networking and the interviewing. Okay. So, which we'll talk about the interviewing in a second, but you got to get in the door. You got to get somebody to see you. That's it. But, I got some hot sports opinions about LinkedIn of how people use it. Like I think the in mails are bullshit. I think that, certain things like that. But what do you think? What are your top, what are your top couple of best practices, and then the misunderstood mistakes?
Yeah. I mean, I think for anyone out there, it could be daunting at first, and you see, like, listen, there's I forgot what the number is, and I'm going to completely butcher it. I think it's like 1 billion people on LinkedIn, right? Literally worldwide, right? Only a very small percent are creating content, right? A very small percent of creating content out there. So you have an opportunity. There's still good organic reach on LinkedIn. So what I recommend is to start off, if you're scared, dip your toes in the water. I'm pulling my LinkedIn page right now. The homepage of LinkedIn, there's this right side that says LinkedIn News. There's eight topical things here. If you take out politics, if you take out the unfortunate, awful plane crash, you look at a couple other things on here. Oh, I see there's SoftBank mulls on OpenAI investment, right? I touch on tech. I know something about AI. I'm going to take that article right there. Now I'm going to add my point of view on that and share that. There's ways that are easy for you to start talking on LinkedIn, to start having engaging conversations. So you're top of feed. And you know what? That's going to help. Dip your toes in the water. Start building out your contacts. Start going down rabbit holes of companies that you've worked at. Make sure I'm connected with the people that I used to work with. Oh, I worked with Brad 10 years ago. Why am I not connected with him on LinkedIn? Great. Boom. Who does Brad know? Now I'm on the job search. Now Brad is at Verizon. I'm looking for a marketing role at Verizon. Hey, Brad, it was great we worked together. I just applied for a product role over at Verizon. Would you mind introducing me to the hiring manager? Right? You have to go and build that spider web.
You got to make the ask. You
have to make closed mouths don't get fed, man.
I love that. It's good.
Right?
The other thing is, one of the things out there, but you're talking about the content. You're talking about creating content or recycling it and giving your opinion.
That's one easy way to do it.
That's another easy way though is this. I mean, look, everybody loves to have their ass kissed and be recognized and acknowledged. And so, when people are putting that out there and you see someone with a company or in the industry you want to work in that wrote an article that was quoted somewhere, that did something, hey, great job. Love that. And not just a thumbs up, but
put insightful comment in there. Yeah, insightful comments. People need to do more of that, right? And these AI tools that are out there, between auto commenting on LinkedIn, which has got my goat, and people over relying on AI to write articles. Like, listen, my approach to AI with content is I use it as a thought starter.
Yeah.
And I prompt it. And I've been messing with these tools for the last year and a half of how do I not just say, hey, write me an article on why DEI and B is controversial, right? But really dig into it and further the prompt and fine tune it and go until I get it to a point where I am infusing a lot of creativity, but now the concept of creativity is different. Maybe I'm not physically writing the whole thing, but I'm prompting it to get to a point that I like it. Then I get it 75% of the way there. I pull it into my Google Docs and Word doc, and then I wordsmith it. I add my language to it. I feel it. So really go down the rabbit hole for two reasons. One, it's going to teach you how to use some of these tools that are out there. And B, you're going to create content that you could put out there on socials. Don't just take the first thing, the first prompt on a basic ass prompt. And most of us who have half a brain could be like, you don't use the M dash in your normal writing. No one uses an M dash in normal writing, folks. I'm sorry. And then when you see, here's the truth. We know how these prompts work, people, but push yourself, get out of your box as far as content. It's going to be uncomfortable if it's not natural to you.
Absolutely.
But give it a shot. And I'm not saying it's for everybody, but if you feel inclined, take that first step.
You're talking about from a content creation standpoint. You know how I use it is not from content creation, but more of just organization, cleaning up, eliminating human error. Because look, I've written 5 books, but my grammar's atrocious. I mean, those types of things that you can choose, how you want to use it, but it's a tool. It's a tool. That's it. It's not something. I mean, this is for my old folks, my advanced adults out there. It's not something that I'm left behind. I'm saying, look. I mean, it takes a little effort. Go learn something. Go learn something new, and then, what are your thoughts on like the whole certifications, or is it just more something of, hey, you just got to go learn it on your own and find best practices?
I don't have a single certification to my name. According to my wife, I'm a certified idiot. But aside from that, like, first of all, let's be very careful here. Certain industries you need certifications for certain things, right? Regulatory, medical. Flying an airplane. I want my pilot to be certified in a 737. Even stuff like in talent and HR, these whole like SHRM certifications and everything, they used to mean a lot more. They used to mean a lot more, and they would have more credibility. I think it's losing a lot of its weight. I think there's definitely some value, and there's always a value to learning, right? Certification, and if it's a accredited source, like, okay, well, I know that Brad did this and he learned this curriculum, but I think it's. I think you just have to. It goes back to what I say. Show me, don't tell me.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly.
Don't tell me your certification. Show me what you do with it.
It's like the certified life coach. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? Really? You're 24 years old.
Most people who are life coaches aren't qualified to tell me shit, right? Like they haven't.
Exactly.
Like,
I trust the people who've screwed the pooch. I want the person who's authentic that knows. Hey, it's kind of like that with the surgeon. I don't want to hear oh shit.
No.
In the middle of the surgery. I want someone who's like, got this. Same deal.
Exactly. I mean, certifications. I mean. It's a tough one, but I take them with a grain of salt unless it's or my favorite on LinkedIn are the people that took one course at Harvard, an online 1 hour seminar and then their education, the first thing says Harvard. I'm like, come on, bro.
I have a friend like that. Okay, she even got the bumper sticker and put it in the back of her car.
That's where you're going with this. You did 1 hour, 1 week, 1 hour, and now you're a Harvard grad. Yeah, is that what you're gonna stick to that story?
Exactly.
Okay. Is that what you're going with? Yeah, that's what you're going with. All right, cool. Noted.
Now let's talk interviews for a quick second.
Yeah, please.
Okay, because that's the second piece, and that's where I love that. I that's my strong suit on helping people. But I think the problem that I see a lot of people make is they're expecting in an interview, just by nature of the name, that they feel it's going to be more of an interrogation, and it's just like I'm here to just tell you my, it's like a menu. It's like you go to a restaurant. I go to a restaurant, and if they were to bring out the ingredients of a dish, it won't mean shit to me. But if they tell me this description of the dish, and how it's going to be and what it smells like, and all of that, it's a totally different deal. And I think people present themselves in an interview like that of, here are my ingredients, here's my recipe, rather than what's special.
Here's the truth. Some people are out. Listen, Brad, I was a great interviewer, and I'm still a good interviewer for jobs. And sometimes I would get the job and I would suck at it, right? Like, I'm telling you, a lot of the times the people that get the jobs are the best interviewers. It is what it is.
Yeah.
There's like bias involved. There's charismatic. There's ways there. And I also think a lot of hiring managers, there's no training. The art of interviewing is long gone.
Yeah.
I think there used to be a lot more training and rigor around how to interview people, even if it was structured, which I appreciate structured interviews too, because that way you're evaluating each candidate on an equal scale and you could calibrate it the right way.
Right.
And it's also tough for folks who are introverted or maybe not great conversationalists. And in that case, you have to over-index and over-prepare. You have to prepare harder and more than other folks. And really that comes down to each one of the roles. And this is a great use of AI, is understanding what are the most important pieces of the job description and having examples to, again, show versus tell of what you did and how you did it. And my greatest takeaway from my podcast and talking to leaders, they want to know on these interviews how you did it. How did you feel? FIO, figure it out. I want to know your thought process. Tell me what you did. Not the team did this, the team accomplished it. No. What did Brad do on this project? What was your contribution? And if your level say, be like, listen, I was only, mid-level on this team, but here's what I did at mid-level that did to the contributions. Here was my approach. Here I went about it. Be able to showcase your thought process. That's what we want to see on an interview. Yeah. How the fuck did you figure it out?
Right. Good. Hey, I want to, you mentioned the podcast.
Yeah.
And for those of you watching me, not only is he one of the top recruiters out there, he's a top voice on LinkedIn. And I mean that in a real top voice, not their label of top voice.
One day I'll get a blue badge.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But no, he really is a true, he's influential. Let's put it that way. Not influential.
He's of influence. Yes.
Absolutely. But one of the ways you've done this is through your podcast that you've had for some time now. And, folks, he's not only good interviewer, but not only just have influential business people, but people in general. And how did you make that? What made you go in that direction? And I want to learn find out what you've learned from doing that. Why?
Yeah, man. I mean, I thank my lucky stars every day that I didn't hesitate on that, because otherwise right now, even in a down market when recruiting is tough, I have that brand to fall on. Otherwise I would just be an everyday recruiter struggling, but I have that business I've been able to monetize. 6 years ago, had an itch, was on a Zoom like this. And I said to the guy on, I go, we're going to record this. This is going to be my first episode. And there was a lot of shows out there. Originally the show in my head was going to be about job search. And I'm a recruiter, and I'm going to talk to hiring managers. I'm going to talk to people and candidates and talk about the job search process. And I quickly found out after about 15, 20 episodes that I was more interested in that person's own journey and how they got to where they are.
Right.
So after 6 years and 415 plus recorded episodes, the thesis is really still unpacking my guest's life journey told through the lens of their career and the ups and downs and the wisdom within that. But within that, I learned so much about myself, and I learned that that I'm inquisitive, and I learned that I am a conduit, where I am that interface between my guests and the audience. And how could I best pull out that information for them? Because ultimately, this is a free 420 episode masterclass with incredible guests that you're going to learn from. And how could I be the best host possible? But the real key learning moment for me, Brad, about 30 episodes in, a trusted source said to me, hey, Adam, the show is good, but here's the problem. I could hear you thinking. I could hear you thinking of the next question. And what you're doing is you're limiting yourself from listening and the ability to go right or left and really go down the rabbit holes. Because here's the deal on any podcast. The treasure is in the shit pit. Hear me out, folks. And we spoke about this before. The most interesting people, back to life coaches, right? The treasure is at your lowest points. Your treasure is at rock bottom. The treasure is, how did that person build from the ground up after they hit rock bottom? That's a story I want. I don't want the same fucking sound bites you do on every podcast. I don't want to hear the story about how you got fired by Gary V 8,000 times. I want to hear stories that I don't really talk about. Like, I never really talk too much about marriage and relationships and kids too much, right? But like, that's where, those are the things you want to pull. Or, hey, Adam just said something really interesting. Hold on for a moment. Let's dig into that a little bit. And that was the unlock for me, thank God, 400 episodes ago. Because that has enabled me to take the show, as we said, from an interview with bullet point. And I still do a ton of research into a conversation. And I'll tell you one thing. The reason that Howard Stern is the best of his best is because he does work and prep and research and a lot of work, but it's effortless because he has that muscle memory and in being a great conversationalist to turn it into a conversation.
Well, and you that word right there, that's it. It's a conversation, and when I started this, again, I watched, we've known each other for a long time. I watched you for a long time, watched you evolve and grow. And I admire it and the work you do with it because it's real. It is not scripted. It's not bullshit. It is authentic. And it is that word of the day. It's the conversation. And that's really it. You know, I mean, to me, it was, you know, and I hesitated doing this for a long time because I thought, great, another fucking podcast,
Yeah.
you and everybody else. Okay.
It's a little bit narcissistic too, right? Like it's like, I have a podcast. Look at me now at my podcast, right?
Yeah, and I didn't want to do that. I like the idea of, you know, it's, you know, I want a conversation of somebody who, you know what, I go get coffee with, go get a drink with, go, you know, have at the barbecue and talk about the real stuff. And just like you talked about, and that's the beauty of what you do. And hopefully what I aspire to do as well is it's not only about, it's not, you can talk about a theme, but the theme is life. Because we all, regardless if you're living in New York or California or, you know, rich, poor, you know, what color you are, what, you know, you worship, whatever, you know what, we all go through these things and we all encounter it. And you know what, not everything's great. It's not cinnamon and unicorns and rainbows. It's not, look at me. You know, there's a guy in this midlife space now. It's like, oh, look at me. And come give me 5,000 a week and come hang out on a beach and do this. Well, dude, you're worth 8 figures. It's easy to talk about life's purpose when you're worth 8 figures. But meanwhile, a lot of us are just going through shit trying to figure it out, and that's the good stuff. And that, like you said, it's you know, it's in the pit. I love it.
It's in the pit, man.
That's good. Hey, thank you for your time. I have just a few more couple of quick questions that I ask people that I've seen that I liked on friends of mine who've done podcasts, and I'm just trying to adopt the same thing.
Yeah,
put my spin on it. But it's the just a few quick rapid fire questions. Some stupid, some good.
Go for it.
Team dog or cat or both?
I'm allergic to both, but I feel like if I wasn't, there's something about, I love dogs, but there's something about cats that are intriguing. I don't know. I could go either way on that one. Very indifferent.
There you go. We're team animal, but you know, we're all dog. Team dog right here. Okay. What are you most excited about right now? Could be anything.
Oh man. I'm excited to start Little League with my son. Yep. 7 years old, starting Little League. He's excited for it. I'm into
Coach
pitch? Yes, this year, yes. And then next year, second grade, they go into kid pitching. First grade is coach pitch.
Yeah. That's so fun. Enjoy that.
I'm ready for it. It is going to be ups and downs, and he's going to struggle and be frustrated, but this could be a learning curve for both of us. And my dad, who did it with me and my brother, and he's like, good luck, buddy. Have fun with that.
Enjoy that.
I'm going to be watching from the sidelines.
Help the guy, you've got a little athlete. Yeah, that's the most,
keep it going.
A good one. You got the little Mets uniform, I'm sure, already.
Oh, yeah, he's a big Mets fan. I feel bad for him, but he's stuck with that.
Sweet. Okay, my last question is this. So we have a time machine, and you get to come back for 2 minutes and talk to your younger self 20, 30 years earlier. What would you say? What would you say about learning to prepare them to help navigate this stage of life?
To truly trust your gut and your first instinct. And don't second guess yourself. And double down. Always double down on yourself. That's the best investment you can make.
Absolutely love it. Adam Posner, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.